We come on every Tuesday on WOVU 95.9 FM right here in the heart of Cleveland, Ohio, in the Garden Valley, Kinsman area. And today we got our guest in the studio audience, none other than he's been a constant contributor to our program, Judge Michael Nelson. He's in today. How you doing there, sir?
I'm doing great. How's
Excellent.
everybody?
Everything is good. Dr. Burton is
All
coming
right.
in on her jet like she always do. She
All
flies
right.
in here every weekend
Oh, yeah.
for our show here straight out of Solon.
Dr.
She
Burton
comes in on her
special.
helicopter and she lands on the roof and she comes flying in here to give us her knowledge every Tuesday, and she'll be right with us to get on in our conversation. So just before we jump into our conversation, we always give a little shout out Unicorn. What's going on? Anything in the hood that's all good that we need to talk about? Fresh Fest, all of that stuff before we get going. What's happening?
Yes, Fresh Fest. The 6th annual Fresh Fest just went down this past Saturday. I was the host DJ, and it was amazing. We had MC Light headlining. Shout out to Environmental Health Watch.
Okay.
Shout out to Red Off Farm. Shout out to DJ Red Eye and Wallace. They held down the stage and the performers. We had a health and wellness zone, a kids zone.
Okay.
It was 3-on-3 basketball, kids skating,
Okay.
vendor zone where it was.
I heard y'all had so many vendors down there. Somebody told me, they said, man, it was too many vendors. They
Too
said,
many?
I never heard of a place with too many vendors. They were complaining that it was too many. They said it was just too many vendors down
If anything, I would have probably scattered them out
That's what
because
they were
it
saying.
probably felt overwhelming because they
Yeah.
were all in one zone.
Maybe that's what it was.
It was a lot of vendors, but it's nothing that the usual festival wouldn't have.
Right.
Every festival has a lot of vendors. I think, if anything, maybe, like I said, they might have been just overwhelmed by the concentration of people selling in this one area. I don't even know. People, sometimes when they get overwhelmed and anxious, they just leave that area and go
Right.
to a totally different
Right.
zone. So I didn't have a chance to really get over there as much as I would have wanted to, or deep in the skirts of it as much
That's
as I
good.
wanted
That's
to.
good.
But it
You
was
know,
a great
I
time.
will
She
give
put on
you-
a great show too. By the
They
way.
always, I'm giving, like you said, a big shout out to Red R and them down there for doing what they do with that. They do good every year, and what I like about it is they stay right there in my genre of music, man.
Yeah.
Every year,
Old
man, they
school.
bring back these old school hip hop
Yeah.
artists and people like that that's still doing the thing, and I respect that and like that more. So how was MC Light? Did she jam?
Woo! She put on such a great show, Mr. Dowell. She put on such a great show. Like, I might, as a female DJ, of course, I'm like semi-fan girling myself because she's definitely a severe inspiration for me. But it was like surreal to be able to have all generations of my family that's currently with me there watching such an inspiration with me. When I say she put on such a great show, like she had a band, she didn't DJ herself,
Okay.
but she did all of her songs. She even did some of her newer songs people aren't too familiar with, but they're like in the Christian rap genre
Oh,
era.
okay.
And it was dope. I genuinely enjoyed the show. My parents came.
Okay.
My daughter was there. I had her on my shoulder. So
Okay.
it was just amazing to even also be able to show my daughter this as well. Like, and to her growing up, this is going to be an everyday thing.
Wow.
For me growing up, it was crazy to see. So I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful. Gratitude.
Excellent, man.
Yes.
Cleveland doing the damn
Mr.
thing.
Dowell, let me add one issue that's going to be going on tonight. I want to
Yeah.
make sure that the community knows that the Cleveland Police Commission will be holding its accountability
That is.
committee meeting, special meetings at 6 o'clock, and the commission is located at 3631 Perkins Avenue on the 4th floor. I encourage the community to come out, make yourselves known. You get opportunity to talk about issues that are of your concern during the public comment period, and I encourage you to come out. We'll be engaging in dealing with a case that we're going to be reviewing to determine whether we want to forward it to the full commission. We'll be looking at what discipline is appropriate, whether the current discipline that's recommended is adequate, whether it needs to be reduced or increased. Come on out, 3631 Perkins Avenue today.
Really quickly, do we
At
have
4
time to
o'clock, 4th floor.
update the people on where the commission is exactly? Is this going to be like one of their first reviews? Are they even reviewing things on a consistent basis?
This would be its second review. We
Okay.
reviewed one before that involved a search, and we found that the officer did conduct themselves properly. But now we have a new matter that we're going to be talking about tonight that may have a different outcome.
Tonight. Tell the time and the address one
6
more time.
o'clock, 3631 Perkins Avenue on the 4th floor. We're still evolving. We've added the mayor and the city council have added 7 new commissioners, of which I'm one, and I think that this new mix makes the commission creditable, and that I think we're moving in the right direction. It's a work in progress, but it's moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
A couple other local news. We have a new councilwoman that's taking place in Cleveland Ward 3. That's Carrie McCormick's area. Carrie McCormick is stepping down as councilman of Ward 3. They divided his ward all up and chopped it up. That was one of the wards, and that wasn't the reason why he stepped down, but he decided he didn't want to be a councilman no more, and that was one of the things he did. But they put a young lady in there by the name of Lauren Welch. And just a shameless plug for our podcast. We're going to have her. She did a show on our podcast a few months ago, and we was holding on to it to find the right moment to be able to show it. And now she just got appointed to that position. So we're going to be breaking that out this week. So if you go check out our podcast, you'll get a chance to check out Lauren Welch. She is a new up-and-coming millennial. She's one of you guys. And she should be very good. And in that spot, she's only going to be there for a short period of time because they are in the middle of an election, and they will be replacing her with somebody who's going to be taking over that area as well. So that's some of the things that's going on. If you guys got any information that you would like for us to shout out during this program, anytime or any information that's going on in the community, you can hit us up online. You can go to our social media links or any of that stuff where we can be able to get that information, and we'll share it with you.
I do.
Okay.
Today is National Voter Registration Day. And if you have not registered to vote yet, if you need to change your address or any other information, whether you went from a man to a woman, I don't care what information it is, you need to update your voter information. You need to register to vote. The last day to register to vote is October 6th. I need y'all to understand how serious this is. I need y'all to understand how deep this really goes. We always talking about reform. We're always talking about dismantling. And while these things are taking place in real time right now, take advantage of this time and voice what it is that you want to see happen, not only in this country, not only in your state, but in your city by voting. That's all I have.
There go Unicorn.
Right.
I think that meter only hit about 4 today. So she's in good spirit, and she got it off, and I think she's good. She gave us what's happening in the hood. Nothing else we can know. There's a lot of stuff going on. Election went on. We got that over with. Some of the things we were expected. Councilman Jones. Oh, that's another one real quick. Councilman Joe Jones. He got censured yesterday. That was one of the things we talked about on the last program. Council voted yesterday to censure Joe Jones. And when someone gets censured in this thing and people ask, what does that mean and everything? Censured is really just a vote of no confidence by your colleagues. It's nothing legal. It's nothing like they stopped him from doing nothing. It's not like he's not going to be able to represent his community and do the things he wants. But it shows that his colleagues have an issue with some of the things he's doing, whether those things are things that he has to work out within inside council. This is what you would call inside politics. If you would say some of the stuff he's going, and the people who are part of it will say no because of what's happening, but really this is a inside politics versus a thing that's going on. Judge?
And one thing we need to make clear, censored by his colleagues means there's an issue between him and his colleagues as it relates to his conduct. This does not mean that he's not doing a great job in his ward. Remember that. And in fact, his ward, each councilman can receive an endorsement in a competitive race. And Councilman Jones received the endorsement of his ward. And if you read the newspaper, they say the Democratic Party endorsed him. Yes, they did, but that's because his ward, people in his ward, residents of his ward, endorsed him by a vote of 16-3. There were 20 people who were eligible to vote for the endorsement between him and his opponent, and 16 out of those 20 people endorsed Joe. So I don't want it to be that, yes, he's censored by his colleagues as it relates to his actions that they believe were improper at the hall. But in terms of his community, which is the Lee Harvey community, the residents of that community, not only did they endorse him, but they overwhelmingly voted for him in the primary. In fact, he was the leading vote getter citywide in the primary.
That's correct. That's correct.
So I just want to give that. Just want to clarify a few issues for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean Joe Jones is doing a terrible job in his ward. He seems to be, based on his residents, doing a pretty good job.
But he got some issues.
But he got some issues
with them
his
colleagues down there,
in
and them
the
people
hall.
in the hall, and them staffers. They like,
Yeah,
they
that's-
see him
that's
coming,
where his
they
issue
like,
is.
oh my God, here comes Joe Jones.
Yeah, that's where his issue is,
Yeah,
downtown.
it's a serious issue down there with them. So hopefully they'll be. But hey, that's one, as we will say, will continue because he has to get through that. And if he wins, he will be back. And when he comes back as the councilman, then it's something that Council President Griffin is struggling with every day.
And that issue may be decided outside of the council chambers. There may be litigation. So
It could be. You
no
never
telling
know how
this
that's
is
going to end.
gonna
You're
resolve itself.
100%. Last but not least, we'll give a big shout out to former Congresswoman Mary Rose Oakar. She passed.
yeah.
And people who know her and folks around our age, Mike and older and younger, will know that Mary Rose Oakar was the first, I think she was Palestinian
And
or
she
Arab
was-
Congresswoman
That's right.
to be elected here in Cuyahoga County, and she served very well. I helped her and had a chance to work with her because she wanted to help her niece, Annie Oakar. And I helped Annie run for judge in the city of Cleveland, and she won, and she's down there. So they're just some nice people. I genuinely think they're really good folks. And from everything I know about her, read about her, and heard from her, she was a very young woman. So we want to give a shout out to her and her family. Our condolences go out to Mary Rose Oakar.
And her niece, Judge Annie Oakar, carries on the legacy that Mary Rose established. Mary Rose was a friend to our community. Matter of fact, she was a strong advocate, and we could count on her vote. She was a strong advocate. She and former Congressman Louis Stokes were very close, and Mary Rose was simply stated a friend. And she'll be lying in state at City Hall on the 19th. I believe she'll be there all day.
Okay.
And they're doing the plans now, but she'll be lying in state on the 19th. And the residents of this community, her congressional district, and others will be able to visit. Her body will be laying state on Friday.
Excellent. That's what's happening around Cleveland. What we're going to do, we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're going to get into what our conversation is about today. Our conversation today is we're going to talk about freedom of speech. Is it really free? And what is speech? I guess, we're going to try to figure that out. And if you'd like to comment, be a part of that, all you have to do is leave a comment on the line. We got people who are looking on our social media who will get those comments in, and we'll make sure we get those up. And if you'd like to leave any of that and be a part of our show, please do that. You can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We are live everywhere. And you can tune to us on that iHeart, because we're on WOVU, streaming live on iHeartRadio as well. So you ain't got no excuse not to hear me. You hear me? We'll be right back.
Get ready, Cleveland. It's your turn to speak up. Call in and tell us what's on your mind. Join the Strategic Moves with Kenn Dowell radio show on 95.9 FM WOVU or stream live at WOVU.org. Let's make your voice count. Let's go.
Support for WOVU 95.9 FM comes from HIP Cuyahoga, connecting residents with information and resources that support healthier living. HIP Cuyahoga highlights the impact of simple habits like drinking more water, getting more rest, eating more vegetables, or spending more time with family. Learn more at hipcuyahoga.org. That's HIP Cuyahoga.org. Powered by the Centers for Disease Control and the Cuyahoga County Board of Health.
Support for WOVU comes from the Alzheimer's Association.
In the fight against Alzheimer's, now matters more than ever. Because now we have treatments that could change everything. But now is no time to stop. Now we've got momentum, so now we use it. Now we seize the moment. Now we turn the tide. Now we make a difference and make some noise. Now is the time to get up, get out, and join the movement. At the Alzheimer's Association Walk to End Alzheimer's, held in over 600 communities nationwide. And we need you with us. Because now is the time for hope. Join the fight at alz.org/walk.
WOVU 95.9 FM is now worldwide on iHeart.
Stay tuned for more great conversation, important information, and the best music right here at 95.9 WOVU. Our voices united.
Support for WOVU comes from the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland. Since 1905, Legal Aid has offered free civil legal services to individuals and families with low incomes across Northeast Ohio. Their work includes support with housing, domestic situations, and public benefits. Legal Aid serves clients in counties including Cuyahoga, Lorain, Ashtabula, Lake, and Geauga. More information is available at www.lasclev.org.
There are important details ahead of the November 4th general election. Over 70,000 Cleveland residents have new polling places. The Board of Elections has moved to 1803 Superior Avenue. Ohio requires an original, unexpired government-issued photo ID to vote. The deadline to register is October 6th, and the deadline to request absentee ballots is October 28th. For full details, visit boe.cuyahogacounty.gov/voters or call 216-443-VOTE.
Your love lifting me higher than I've ever, and I'll be at your side forevermore. Now once I was downhearted, disappointment was my closest friend. But then you did not deserve, and you know he never showed his face again.
Order in the court. When the gavel drops, the truth pops. Judge Michael Nelson, it's time to break down the law like never before. Bringing you the facts, the insight, and the hard-hitting truth. Buckle up, Cleveland.
All right, we're back, and Dr. Burton's airplane landed. She's here. I told
Right.
y'all, she comes flying in here. She made it in here. Doctor, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
What's up with you, man? What's going on?
Nothing much. I wanted to dress like Judge Nelson today.
I see.
And be
Look like
dressed
y'all
up
matching
today. I
today.
know. I wanted to be fancy today.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
How a judge is writing a book. How's your book writing going?
I mean, the doctor.
Excuse me. The doctor is writing.
Judge
a book.
should be, but the
Judge
doctor
should be,
is.
but the doctor is writing. And this is
Yeah.
book number what?
4.
This is book number 4.
Book number 4.
And how far are you into this book you write?
I am very far into this book because this book is due in October.
Okay.
So I have to be far.
You gotta hurry up because I need your help.
Right.
Oh man.
This book is due. It's going to be a while because I just got edits from my other book that was due in February that I got to circle back and make those changes and turn that back in. So it's a lot of writing right now.
All right.
So she was talking yesterday, and she mentioned to me about that. What's your process in writing book? What is that? You gotta go because you was mentioning it to me. You were saying, "Hey, I gotta get into this writing
Right.
mode."
Ken
and
want to
all
call me. This is what he want to tell y'all. In the middle of the day, then I answer the phone because I figure it's going to be 2 minutes. Ken normally only talk like 2 minutes. But this particular time, now we had 10 minutes.
Because we getting close we got stuff to talk about. Before, I didn't have nothing to talk to her about. Now, hey, Doc, how you doing? What you doing?
So the process is different. The process is different for what I'm writing. For a book, that is, and I have to say because I've written 4 different books, and so the process has been different for all 4. When I wrote the novel, I would say all of them are like chapter outlines to a degree, but it's the outline, it's writing from there. But I was intentional with these last 2 books that I wanted to work with an editor as I wrote versus writing and then that. So I was intentional that I wanted a great editor with a publishing company. So that was intentionality with these last 2. But one of the big things is because this book is more academic, and even with anything with writing, is my days can be interrupted. Because once I sit down and start writing, I have to write. Mm-hmm. If my day is interrupted, then it messes with your mind. And once your mind is interrupted, you can't get back into the flow. And so I could have a whole day with nothing to do, but if one thing throws it off, it can mess up my thinking process, and I can't get anything done. So that's why I've been very strategic that Tuesday is my meeting day. It's my outer day. Since we do the radio show on Tuesday, this is blocked off, and this is the other day that I schedule meetings around on Tuesdays. So it's the day that I do no writing. I don't do any writing typically on Tuesdays.
So do I have to turn my TV off?
Unless you can concentrate with your TV, but that doesn't work for me.
So
you like to be somewhere real quiet.
I have to be.
And real serene. And
I have to
if
be.
you can go away, you'd love to go away to do it, huh?
Yeah, like I was in Jackson, Mississippi last week, and being in Jackson, I spent several days where it was just writing. and nothing else. But I also know, and this goes back and coming with that student lens, and I just left a meeting talking about students, but how I learned to study as a student. And so learning what type of student I was is also the same type of writer. So I was that student where, and y'all know, remember all the standardized tests. I scored out the wazoo in math and science, but in reading, I always had the lower scores. And one of the reasons is because with reading comprehension, I have to be in complete silence in order for me to comprehend. So it has to be a quiet room, a study. Nobody can talk to me, because even if you talk to me, it's going to veer, and I'm going to go elsewhere. And so I write the same way.
Wow. Yeah, so that's interesting. So as y'all know, don't bother. She ain't
Don't
in the
bother
mood.
me
She ain't trying to
Monday
hear.
through Sunday, except on Tuesdays.
Except on Tuesday. All right, we here and we got her here today. She done flew in. She got us in on her schedule. We got a lot to talk about today. This conversation is all about freedom of speech. Is it really free, and who are the people who actually get to benefit from it? So Lateef, we got some beam footage we're going to roll today to get this conversation started. Can you got us up and rolling? Hit that.
To be murdered. But I'm overwhelmed to see the nation's flag
You get some back.
fly at half staff for a man who was a proud racist and spent his entire life sowing seeds of division and hatred into this land. And then these hypocrites with selective rage who are mad about Charlie Kirk but didn't say anything about Melissa Hortman and her husband when they were gunned down in their living room, tell me that I ought to have compassion for the death of a man who never showed compassion or respect for my life. Y'all, there's nowhere in Bible we are told to honor evil.
All right, there it is. That's going to set the tone for our conversation today. And that's all about is that Charlie Kirk, conservative, was assassinated, I believe, last week or the week before last, sometime around then. And there's a lot of talk and everything that's going on around the conversation of freedom of speech. There's been a lot of folks who are really scared to talk about subjects and things of this nature. We done looked at and witnessed a councilman in Fairview Park who wrote something on his private social media post in regards to Charlie Kirk, and he was asked to step down, and he stepped down from his post. I believe there was a teacher in Cleveland Heights who wrote something on their personal page in regards to their feelings about how they felt as it relates to how the government and others are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, and the vice president going to pick him up in the Air Force Two and bring him in. They're arguing to try to get him, as you say, for Congresswoman Oakar, Lion and State. They're trying to movement to try to get him to Lion State in the Capitol. It's a lot of movement towards that. But the question that we're putting out there is this freedom of speech that everybody say we all have, and the ability to do it. And what kind of gets me on it is that if everybody's okay with Charlie Kirk, and the government seems to be okay, Donald Trump and everybody seems to be okay with the fact that they want us to accept what he was saying was his ability to have that right and to be that, how come everyone else who uses that same tactic or uses their freedom, because it's not a tactic, it's excuse me, it's something that we have. So if everybody else can have that same right and freedom, how come it's questioned, and how come people are actually losing their jobs and things behind that? So today I got two of the smartest people I know in the studio today, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. We got Judge Nelson, and we got Judge. I want to keep calling. Maybe that's what you need to do with you. I got a job for you.
A judge? That requires I got to go back to school, and I ain't going back to no more schooling.
I got a job for you. All right.
If they not going to hire me with the credentials I have right now, it's not happening.
Hey.
We got Dr. Burton and we got Judge Nelson, and we're going to sit in here and we're going to try to tackle this discussion a little bit. Freedom of speech. Who has it? Let's start with you, Judge.
Two issues, two constitutional amendments I want to point out to you. First, the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or, now this is the bold line, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. In the Ohio Constitution, it says, freedom of speech of the press of every citizen may freely speak, write, and publish his sentiments on all subjects, being responsible for the abuse of the right, and no law should be passed to establish, restrain, or abridge the liberty of speech. Now, that's your freedom of speech. But there are consequences in some cases for exercising freedom of speech. So let me exercise my freedom of speech right now as guaranteed by both the United States and the Ohio Constitution. I don't give a hoot about Charlie Kirk's death. I could care less. People die every day. It's not about his death. Is he worthy of our honor by the life he lived? And I say, hell no.
No.
With an underscore, quotes, parentheses, and asterisks.
Okay.
All the way down the line. His life is not worth celebrating unless you are a hateful and you are despising poor, needy, and your neighbor. His speech was his life. And that kind of life is not the kind of life that's awarded with prosperity or long life. Those are my evangelical friends who are having a heart attack about Charlie Kirk being despised by most of us. Read your own Bibles. It talks about his behavior and conduct, and it says it's not rewarded. So believe what you're going to believe, or take your Bible and do Donald Trump. Turn it upside down so you can't read it, and set it on fire. Because you are hypocrites. He did nothing noble. He wasn't Martin Luther King or John Lewis. Now, if they wanted to give him a ride, his body a ride on Air Force Two, then fine, he was their boy. We don't give a hoot about that. But he is not worthy of our honor, period. He had the right to make all the crazy, nasty, hateful, prejudicial, discriminatory speeches he made about women, black folks, poor folks. He could say that, but he ain't getting honored by it. Flags flying half-mast is hypocrisy. And everybody who, football teams celebrating him, the man was despicable. And his death, in death, he will still be just as despicable as he was in life.
Doctor,
put that out there, folks.
Doctor, what's your view on this freedom of speech?
I think that I'm listening to the judge, and when the judge just read the First Amendment and an Ohio Constitution, is that freedom of speech, what does that mean? And I go there because that's the issue, is that freedom is limited to those who it wants to be. And so when we don't have freedom across the board, then we really don't have freedom of speech. We don't have freedom of anything. And that's why it's hard when you talk about the Constitution and the First Amendment. We should be protected by freedom of speech and to be able to say anything. But when you don't have freedoms, what guarantees us the right to be able to say what we want to say? Because the bottom line is we cannot say what we want to say that's against the majority, that's against normalized perspectives of normalized not being right perspective. And I think I go back to, it's just interesting to me why, and I go to just here, why is Charlie Kirk being celebrated? And that's the question. Literally, even if he was not spewing hate, what has Charlie Kirk done that? Not Ken, we on the show and you got phones ringing. No, but what has Charlie Kirk done that determines that there needs to be a celebration? We didn't celebrate Malcolm Jamal Warner like this.
No, we didn't.
And I'm really trying to understand, outside of him being your boy, outside of him being a racist and falling under the category of many other folks, Christian nationalists, which is Christianity shaped in white supremacy, what has he done that warrants a celebration? Let's remove the racist comments. Let's remove the hate. What has he done?
And because if you remove the hate and the racist stuff, there ain't much left.
I almost lost my Christianity on the radio.
It
Lord
ain't
have
much
mercy.
left.
He ain't done anything.
It ain't much left.
And so that's my point when we talk about freedoms and freedoms of speeches. We asking ourselves, why are you even celebrating him? And you celebrating him because the reality is you celebrating him for the hate that he spewed.
That's correct.
That's what you celebrating him for.
You
'cause
can
he ain't
only
did nothing
celebrate.
else.
That's all you can celebrate him for, because when you look at the videos, now we got to go off of where we at right now in society, and we're a society of social media, videos, and all of that. When you go back and you look at what's going on the videos, that's all. And I don't know. I haven't seen a good video on the brother at all. All I see is him talking to people and putting one group of people down while he
bring up another.
And
And another is only one group.
And the other it was only one group, and that's it.
And freedom of speech has limits. And Charlie Kirk was at the limit of his freedom of speech. For example, some of those limits are you don't have the freedom of speech to incite imminent lawless action, defamation, obscenity, child pornography, or threats.
Okay.
His speech could be interpreted under all those categories.
All of those.
Wow.
Now, I don't mind you racist, Nazi-loving, goose-stepping ignoramuses from celebrating Charlie Kirk. Be my guest. It helps me identify who you are so I can avoid you or protect myself against your ignorant behinds. But when you talk about people who've got the Presidential Medal of Honor, and under Donald Trump,
he's gonna get
and
one of
Donald
those
Trump it's a worthless symbol now.
It is.
You've had people who actually did honorable, world-renowned things that uplifted the community. Those people who received that previously fit right into the preamble of the United States, where it says you uplift injustice and posterity.
That's what doctors say. What have he done?
He did none of these things except speak against that.
Yeah.
Now, most of the people I know that adhere to the philosophy of Charlie Kirk are people no normal person wants to be around. They are the least desirable. They belong in the lowest level. And if Charlie Kirk was teaching that to his kids going to have a tough life. They're going to be despised by their fellow classmates, disliked, mistrusted. And that's his legacy. So when they talk about his death, and people talk about he didn't deserve to be shot, I don't know whether he deserved to be shot or not, but I do know this much, that he lived a life that deserves to be despised.
I heard somebody say Malcolm X didn't deserve to be shot in front of his wife and kids either.
Yeah.
No, that's the whole point. If Charlie Kirk is okay, then why Farrakhan catch such a big issue? Yeah. We're talking about utilizing the same freedom of speech to be saying, now they'll say up and down everything that Farrakhan is saying is hateful. Right. If his stuff is hateful, then Charlie Kirk's stuff was hateful.
And I'll give you another one. When we make accusations of racism, the first thing they want to do is take up for their people and say, oh, no, they're not racist. They didn't mean it that way. So we don't have freedom. And that's what I said. Our freedoms of speeches, I don't even know if that's a word. Our freedom of speech is limited.
Yeah. But now, in terms of his death, on that question of the person who shot him committed a crime. And there are penalties for what that person did.
That's correct.
So by nature of how he died, it's a crime. But that he's dead is part of life and death. We die all the time by various and sundry means. Mm-hmm. The thing that Charlie Kirk's family and his supporters have to live with is that his voice was not a voice of reason. It was not a voice of uplifting the community. In fact, he tore down everything our Constitution stands for. Yes, you have the right to say that, consistent with the ignorance and the poison in your brain in terms of what he said. But it does nothing to uplift or build up our community.
It does it or doesn't. Because let me put it this way. We sit here, and that's us. We all sitting here saying what we're saying. But there's a whole group of people outside of us that's not like us, that's full and hurt, all the way up to the White House. You even got the vice president who's saying, I'm going to be taking over his talk show. Now he's saying that now until they can find somebody else to put there. So for us to say what we're saying, it could be true, but just like any splinter cell, there'll be another Charlie Kirk who's going to step right up in that position.
And
to
it won't
continue-
take long.
And it won't take long. So with that being the case, then, which tells me that maybe there's a lot more of them who really feel this way.
Oh, there definitely is. There definitely is. And I keep saying this, is that this is just Charlie Kirk and his people standing there are just overt. There's a lot of other folks that feel the same way. They just not letting you know.
Correct.
And they're manifested in a different way. And that's why I use the example of how many times have you gone to somebody, a white person, and said such and such was racist, or I felt that their acts towards me was racist. And they're like, oh no, I don't think they meant it that way. There's always a defense from their lens towards their brother or sister. And when I say brother, sister is white people. There's always a lens of defense towards them. And that's why they defending Charlie Kirk, because they can't see Charlie Kirk as a racist. I said this before, is that most white people only see racism from the lens of KKK and a hood. And if you don't have a hood on, and if you're not running around and part of a KKK, they don't associate you with racism.
I like to throw these scriptures in the face of my Christian friends. Philippians 4:8, finally, brethren or sisters, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there's any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things.
Think on these things.
Anything else is a mental illness. It's not only a spiritual illness, it is a mental illness. And if you dwell on things outside of the context mentioned in that paragraph, you start thinking about things that distort your brain. The people you just described, Dr. Burton, are people whose mindset has been distorted and their vision blocked, so they can't actually see the reality of their conduct.
Exactly.
And they don't believe. You can't convince them of things otherwise because their hearts are hardened and their minds are all totally destroyed. And it's going to take a real missionary to the United States to convert them to the things we're talking about. So I believe that we need a missionary field. Because the United States is a missionary field in need of somebody coming in here and turning them back to things of virtue, because our country is lost. And I'm not talking about that God founded us as to be this perfect land. I'm talking about the mindset of people. If you go back looking at Old Testament stuff, we had some crazy leaders and some crazier people who followed those crazy leaders. And we now evolved ourselves back into that mindset before you gain consciousness and common sense.
And it's getting worse because pivot to just another part of just everything we're going through. Watching the news this morning, and I saw out in Lake County, I think, or Lake High School or something, there was a student who filed, a cross-country student, who filed a complaint because the coach was praying and wanted the team to pray before they do their things. And anybody who's been playing any kind of organized sports, especially for men and boys, and that's been part of the tradition, a prayer before every time, especially in football, anything you were going to get out there and get really physical and can end up getting injured and hurt. Coaches really took into that, and that was part of their thing. But in Lake County now, there's a thing that's on where they're saying now was an organization from Minnesota that came in that actually complained against, actually came in and they are against prayer. They were like, you shouldn't be praying in school. You shouldn't be doing none of the stuff in school that you shouldn't be doing in that regards. And they got that stuff cut out. And the citizens of that community, even though they got 1,100 signatures to say that they wasn't going to do that, they ended up doing that anyway, and they passed it. So now this is what the deal was. They say you can pray in school, but the coaches can't do it. They said the reason why the coaches can't do it is because if you're a student and you didn't want to pray and the coaches is praying,
it looks like somebody's authority making you do it.
Authority making you do it. So now they're not doing that. So, and I guess the point I'm making is that, like the people say, it's an organization all the way from Minnesota that came into this town that bought this in there, and they stripped them away from that. To your point, everything that we supposed to be doing, and you are speaking about Scripture, and Charlie Kirk, and they are standing on Scripture, and they got preachers and everything standing on all of this, but everything they are against is totally anti-Scripture, man.
Well,
and I just don't get it.
Think about another way.
We'll get you
Some things maybe were written in Bible, but some things are common sense that you can get the same kind of common sense approach about what you should focus on down at Angie's Kitchen, sitting with the boys over some fried chicken. So it's the thought. It's the thought. It's if you go to your counselor's gonna tell you, look, man, don't be thinking about that evil stuff you watched on TV, that all the mean stuff that makes you do stuff, act crazy. Think about something positive, the flowers in your yard. So let's flip it. The scriptural reference is just to my church boys and girls who like to spout how righteous they are and use that to defend their positions. Say, read the next chapter, read the next verse, so you can get further guidance on what you're espousing. But the thing is about common sense. We are a country of laws for a reason. The laws are designed to protect us. The Constitution gives you certain freedoms underneath those laws. And even in that freedom of speech, you identified the limits on that. But see, we have a country that's lost its integrity. Honesty is no longer, we have a president who campaigned on a lie. Oh, not a lie. He has so many lies. He needs his own book, the Book of Lies.
Book of Lies.
The Book of Lies.
So it's
the
about
Book of Truth, so it can only be one page.
It's about integrity, man. It's about integrity and honesty. Charlie Kirk did not have integrity or honesty.
Yes.
So let's call him what he is.
Yes.
And let's put the people who support him, not those who talk. So I think the death part, him getting shot, is a whole false narrative to direct us away from how he lived. That's a fact that he died as a result of a gunshot. Okay, that's the fact issue. But the far more reaching and more telling part is what his life was all about. And how that impact. His death's not going to impact anybody other than his family.
Right.
But his speech, because other people will adapt that speech pattern and that thinking because they don't have enough mental health in order to resist that.
What you got, Lateef?
I was just wanting to make a comment on the prayer. It seems every time, like in a school or a sports setting, there'll be that one person that want to come against prayer. But when we have natural disasters or this happens or that happens or somebody gets killed unjustly or whatever the case may be, they get right on the TV and say, we need to pray for this or we need to pray for that. From government to whatever institution feels it's the time for prayer. So I think it's a lot of hypocrisy with people going against prayer because they only don't want to pray when it's convenient for them, but then they want to pray when it's convenient for them.
Now look at government though. That's when we read this Constitution, it says shall make no law establishing or prohibiting the exercise, which means you ain't got to be religious and you don't have to pray, but you have the right to if you want to. So most of these prayers are not mandated. They are part of our natural. Even people who die who are agnostic still talk about Jesus Christ. Please bring my mom in here. Help me, Lord. Okay? So it's more natural. It's not something forced upon you. So there's that balance.
But you know what? And this is why I'm saying things are so crazy. Because I don't know about y'all, but when we were in school, it was always a Jehovah's Witness. It was always a Muslim or somebody. When the teacher said we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, they would sit there and we all looking like, why she ain't standing up? She'd be like, I'm Jehovah's Witness or I'm Muslim. And they'd be like, all right, sit on over there. The whole class do the Pledge of Allegiance and you move on. Yep. I just don't understand why. And because
I can tell you why. A lot of the whys is because you got people saying, what about me? And so feeling in their exclusionary spaces or exclusion is that they came and said, y'all forgot about me. I don't want to pray because I'm atheist. And because I'm atheist, in this space, I shouldn't be made to pray, so nobody should have to pray. It's an elitist mindset when we think that everybody's views should be the same as ours. And that when we come, so if I don't want to pray, I just don't pray. But no, what I'm going to do is, because I don't want to pray, everybody's not going to pray. And this is what's happening in the spaces. Because I don't want to eat chicken, nobody's going to eat chicken.
And that's where the violation and the misinterpretation of the Constitution comes in. It says establish or permit the free exercise thereof. So you can also have the free exercise and not do it.
Right.
Without any harm.
That's correct. Without any harm.
Without harm or criticism.
And that goes back to what
that
we
goes back
talked
to you said. And when we came up, you just didn't do it. They said, okay, sit down.
That's correct.
Sit down. It's not creating any harm to anybody. But here's the thing: when we've gotten to where the United States is that we think everything is a fight and a lawsuit.
That's correct.
And so we're going to stand up for what we believe based on limited information. And it goes back to that whole thing that I keep saying this. As soon as black people start saying something, everybody got to say, what about me?
Now, you raised a question earlier, though. Why are people getting fired for exercising their freedom to say, I don't give a hoot about Charlie Kirk? Why are they... See, this is where it's like your Fifth Amendment. You have the right to remain silent, and they guarantee that no one is going to make anything of it. But in the mindset of some people, I had a rape trial. A professor from Cleveland State refused to vote one way or the other because the defendant did not testify. And the judge told her 50 times the defendant's not required to testify. But in her head,
she had already made up her mind.
She made up her mind that if he don't say nothing, I'm not voting either way, which means we had the jury, you had to have 12 after unanimous decision. 11 people voted to acquit, and she said, I ain't doing it. So they had to actually bring in another judge to try to convince her that she had to make a decision. But she would refuse to do it. So by the same token, yes, you have the right to freedom of speech, but it's really determine how free you are by the norms of the people around.
So that's exactly what I'm saying. Because here's the other thing, talking about what Judge Nelson just said, is you have freedom of speech determined by the norms of the people that are around you. You look at the teacher. You stated it was posted on her personal page. So this is not even work. This is my personal views on my personal page.
That's correct.
But I'm being held accountable. Now I'm not sure. I just Googled. It was 2 councilman people that had to step down.
Wow.
There was one in Fairview. There was one in Monroe Falls.
Wow.
That stepped down based on their comments. Now I don't know if theirs was on a public page or if it was on.
No, both of them were all private.
And
nobody did nothing public.
But that's the thing is that you are freedom of speech is within the norms of what you occupy.
That started out when I talked to the judge and was calling you guys, letting y'all know what we should talk about. Judge brought up the original sin of this was one person, and that original sin in the white man's eyes was Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
The original.
Yeah.
He was the original one who first came out and said, I am not, and had a right to.
And then Chris Jackson was really the first one. I can remember that played for the Denver Nuggets.
Okay.
He was a guard for the Denver Nuggets. He refused to stand for the national anthem, and he turned back and looked another way. And he played until they finally got him out the league. But there have been numerous public figures, I consider athletes to be public figures, who've exercised their right as guaranteed under the Constitution, that have paid a tremendous cost. I think of Tommy Smith and John Carlos when they raised their fists, and Avery Brundage almost had a heart attack because these two Negroes had the audacity to raise their black gloved fists at the Olympics. So people, just like the whole concept of the Constitution came at a price, you actually exercising your rights under that can be subject to all kind of commercial derision and loss of opportunities. Now, in my case today, I just announced my thinking about Charlie Kirk, okay? But as a lawyer who is 76 years old, I deserve the right to exercise my right. I don't care who thinks about it, what y'all think about it, okay? But and notice, I didn't make any hateful comments about him. I just talked about what he did and what he said.
That's what the councilman did. That's what the teacher did. That's what everybody did. They didn't go on there and say anything
I think
hateful.
somebody said, no, life is better without him.
That's depending on what side of that knife you on.
And you got to contrast good with evil. So I'm not saying life is better without him. I'm saying is at least his kind of hate is a lesson that we can use when we're trying to people how to live together.
But I think this also is, and we can see it. I was reading how his social media accounts, all of them have, I don't know what the number, but have increased significantly. His videos, watching his YouTube channel has increased significantly.
That's because even there's people who don't know him.
Who
want to see him. Not because they believe in it, it's because y'all keep talking about who's this Charlie Kirk? And you got people now going on to here, and you get a lot of people coming back, pushing back, saying, hey, that ain't for me. But it is going to increase, which is what they want anyway. They want the views. They want all of that stuff to come on out so that they can do that. So to your point, it's increasing big time.
And they making it. I still go back to, what has he done?
He hasn't done nothing.
Like, why are we celebrating
The standard is low.
Yeah, but the standard is low in the country, period, when it comes
the standard is low. He's going to get a Presidential Medal of Honor for meeting the lowest standard we could possibly meet. The standard for that honor was high. Now we have redefined it so it can be as low as we can make it. There's nobody I know that
it's like what I feel about honorary degrees.
Yeah. That's a different subject. But you do have a feeling about it.
We can tell she kind of running it around with like, hold on.
I'm just saying of how people are getting honorary degrees very often, and you like, what's the standard?
Yeah.
What's the standard?
Someone said that Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Peace Prize is for peace.
For peace.
Not for acting a fool.
Hey.
So they've lowered the standard. Attempted to lower that standard.
They're attempting.
See, so we have to, and that goes back to the loss of integrity in this country. Integrity used to be a mark to achieve and to maintain. Now,
you probably need to define integrity for the country. That might be part of the problem. When you start using 2- and 3-syllable words for some folks in the country, they don't know what it means.
And that's been one I don't think they've been skipping over that for a long time.
So that's what it is. And you just compare our government. Now, we had some major faults. But I think of Lyndon B. Johnson. I think of Kennedy. I think of how they adjusted to things. I think of the best president of our lifetime, Barack Obama. Just compare his speech and what was required of him, and then compare this bumbling president we have now.
No, that's a whole other subject
who's number one.
I don't even think you can compare him to anybody.
That's a whole other subject.
You really cannot compare him to anybody, and it's just. It shows you just the game of wealth and power.
Yeah.
People, we're whirling down to our end, and we do this to every show because we don't just like having people. We come on here and just whine and cry and fuss about all this madness. Let's give them with some things that you think people can do, Judge. You think if we're going to, us as a people, we always tell people, hey, get involved, and that's easy, and we're going to tell y'all to get involved because we think y'all want to get involved. Anything else you think we could be doing, and it don't have to be that, just as us as people can do better at to try to help us be better prepared to deal with these kind of things.
Dr. Burton was talking about the book she's writing. As we were growing up, we were encouraged to go to the library to read, and to read books that would uplift us, but expand. The problem with Donald Trump, his vocabulary runs out after 8 words, and then the word beautiful shows up predominantly. Because he's out, his language ability is done after 8 words.
You say after beautiful?
It's done. And so then everything's become, that was a beautiful car window that I saw. That was wasn't that a beautiful jail? It's crazy stuff. He just throws the word beautiful. He sounded like one of the Bowery boys. He just threw the word beautiful in the sentence anywhere. But read so you become a student and uplift and expand your horizons.
And you have no excuse. They got audio books now. You can put an audio book in and do it. What you say, Doc?
I say the same thing. Read.